What is up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Weathering the Storm, an Orlando Storm podcast. The day is finally here. The season has finally started. It is game day, and the Orlando Storm are taking on the Columbus Aviators tonight at 8 p.m. at Inter & Co Stadium in Orlando, Florida. And this will be the podcast's first ever pre-game episode. I really wanted to get somebody from the Aviators on here so we could have like a collaborative episode, but that didn't really work out. So we're going to do this one solo for this week. Should have something special planned for next week that I have yet to announce. I'm really excited about that. But just focusing on the game tonight, let's go ahead and just get into the starting depth charts. This isn't going to be a super long episode, nothing crazy in depth. I'm not going to front and act like I know that much about this Columbus Aviators roster. I really don't. I know some standout guys, but that is about it. But we can get in depth on the Orlando Storm side, and I'll give you all kind of some of my standout players and players that I am super excited to see. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And also some inactives that I saw. I haven't seen any from the Aviators actually, so apologize for that, but I have seen some for the Orlando Storm, which I am actually really disappointed about. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And what better place to start than the quarterback position for both of these teams? Let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Jack Plummer, number 13 at quarterback, former Louisville Cardinal, was announced as the starter for the Orlando Storm just a few days ago, which was to the surprise of many, many people. Not so much for those who have been following the team closely and have been kind of looking at what they've been doing on social media and like how they've been posting things and kind of hinting at things a little bit, almost kind of like trying to break the ice before, the actual announcement was made. So Jack Plummer is the Orlando Storm's starting quarterback, but there is a caveat on the depth chart that says Jack Plummer or Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I would still say he's pretty much locked in to be your day one starter, but that or there leads me to believe that there is a rather short leash. Again, I don't know what brought about this decision. If we're going purely on resumes, I would think DTR has the superior one. And if we're going just based on training camp, I would find it hard to believe that Jack Plummer outperformed him so drastically that Beck decided to go with him over DTR. But maybe that was the case, or maybe there's something else that happened that we are just not aware of that led to this decision. I don't want to speculate too much on that. It could be anything, but regardless, Jack Plummer is your QB1 with DTR at QB2. And then when we go to the Columbus Aviators side of things, I don't think there's any surprises there that we have Jalan McClendon as your starter, Jalen Morton backing him up, and Aiden Sayin as the third string. And obviously Jalan McClendon is the standout player there. So just to give a really quick rundown on Jalen McClendon, again, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on him whatsoever, but he did play college for NC State from 2014 to 2017 and Baylor in 2018, went undrafted in the 2019 NFL Draft, spent time with the Ravens and Redskins, as well as the Los Angeles Wildcats, then transitioned into the XFL with the Vegas Vipers, then the DC Defenders in 2024, played with the Houston Roughnecks, and the Columbus Aviators in 2026. Overall, in the XFL/UFL, he has a 5-5 record, a 63% completion percentage, about 2,500 yards passing, 11 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and an 87.3 passer rating. In college, however, it seems like he didn't see much time, just a 1-0 record, 81 completions on 138 attempts, 58.7 completion percentage, 977 yards, 4 touchdowns to 7 interceptions over his entire college career. So not much of note during his college tenure, but a bit of a promising tenure in the UFL/XFL. Not a super decorated resume, but we will see if he can keep up that those signs of promise that he has shown recently with the UFL slash XFL. Definitely a bit of a risk for the Columbus Aviators for sure, but the potential is there. You can see that right away. But moving right on along, we're just going to go straight down the depth chart here. And we have wide receivers. So for your Orlando Storm, we have KJ Hamler, Chris Rowland, and Elijah Badger as your starting three receivers. And then behind them, we have Aaron Cruikshank backing up Hamler. We have Sam Wiglis backing up Rowland. And then we have Jerome Cap and Cam Camper backing up Elijah Badger. For your Aviators, we will have Tay Martin, Rock Taylor, and Kiki Chisholm. Then backing up those guys, we have Devin Ross backing up Tay Martin, Jalen Moore backing up Rock Taylor, and Antoine Wells Jr. backing up Kiki Chisholm. So on the Aviator side of things, I'm not really familiar with many of those guys, but for your Orlando Storm, definitely look out for Chris Rowland in the slot. That looks like the guy that they put there for your slot receiver position, and then Sam Wiglis backing him up. I don't know how much playing time Sam Wiglis is going to get, but don't sleep on Sam Wiglis. I did really like his tape at Ohio with the Ohio Bobcats. Of course, KJ Hamler is the standout guy. If you're an Aviators fan watching this, that will be our definitive wide receiver one for sure. Aaron Cruikshank is backing him up. I would say look out for him. He is a super sneaky good player, like really quick, really shifty, but he is inactive for this game. Super disappointed about that. Elijah Badger, again, really good receiver. Like Orlando Storm, like wide receiver might be Orlando Storm's strongest position. Really good at Florida. But then we have Jerome Cap, a true possession receiver, backing him up, and then Cam Camper. Also, I would say I don't know how much playing time he's going to get, but again, he was really, really good with Boise State. Really shifty, really easy to get open for him. Sure hands, really good route runner. Really liked Cam Camper, but he does look like he is at the bottom of this wide receiver course, so don't know how much play he is going to get. So for running back, for the Orlando Storm, they kind of messed this up on the depth chart, so I'm going to have it up on the screen, but this is the Washington Commanders depth chart. I don't know why they put their running backs here for the Orlando Storm, but I'm not sure who's going to be starting, but I'm going to imagine that Jashawn Corbin is the starter with Trey Stewart backing him up and Elijah Dotson at the third. Maybe you can swap out 2 and 3. Well, maybe all 3 of them. I have no idea. But I would assume that Jashawn Corbin is going to be your starter, who of course led the UFL last year in rushing touchdowns with the San Antonio Brahmas. And then you have Trey Stewart. He is a super, super quick running back. Like super shifty, super fast. That dude, if there's an open hole, he is going to burst right through it, and he could easily take an 80-yard run just all the way to the house. Like he is the type of guy, if there's an open gap in a straight lane, he is going to accelerate straight through it and take it all the way to the house. Again, don't know where he is on the depth chart because of the little error they made. But if he does get playing time in this game, look out for that for sure. Super quick. And then again, Elijah Dotson, a very experienced back, had time with the Los Angeles Chargers. Do not sleep on him whatsoever either. And then at running back, John Lovett, Toa, and Zakondre White. Toa, I believe, had some success last year in the UFL, a significant amount of success. So I'm shocked he's not at the top of the running back depth chart, but he should still figure to contribute anyways at RB2. Again, sorry guys, don't know much about John Lovett or Zakondre White. Just moving right on along, though, we'll go ahead and get into tight end to round out the skill positions for our offense. We have Sean Bowman, Connor Fox, and Steven Stylianos. None of these 3 guys really had super overwhelming stats in college, but I will say Sean Bowman does have quite a few impressive highlights as a pass catcher, though it was with the University of Maine, which is certainly is not a power conference college. I don't know if it was D2 or not. But either way, it was a much smaller school. But regardless of that, he had many impressive catching highlights there with the University of Maine. So pretty excited to see him. He seems quick in and out of his routes and shows the ability to catch the ball pretty well. But But I'm thinking, again, I could be wrong. This might be more of a blocking unit, which is perfectly fine for your tight ends. Um, Especially Steven Stilianos. He's going to be mainly a blocker. But Connor Fox and Sean Bowman, they both have shown a decent ability to get out and catch the ball. But Sean Bowman, primarily the pass catcher. Connor Fox, maybe a hybrid of both. And then I would say Steven Stilianos is going to be your sixth lineman pretty much there. But then we transition to the Columbus Aviators side of the ball, where we have Gunnar Oaks, Elise Mack, and Cameron McDonald. And I thought I had some notes about Gunnar Oaks. Yeah. So Gunnar Oaks was a returning all UFL selection from 2025 who has shown elite ability at blocking and pass catching. So definitely look out for Gunnar Oaks on the Aviators side of the ball here, especially with I'm not downing Jalan McClendon. He could be really good, but for what might be a question at quarterback there, look for him to find the tight end. Often that is usually a young quarterback's, not that he's, super young, but, young and experienced, however you want to put it. It's a quarterback's best friend to find the tight end. So if you have a good tight end for your, young quarterback, that can help a lot. Especially if the offense is struggling, it's super easy to just dump it off to the tight end. And they have a good one there with Gunnar Oaks. So look out for that for the Columbus Aviators. So let's go ahead and get into the offensive lines for both of these teams. We have, starting from left tackle to right, for the Orlando Storm, we have Jason Ivey. At left guard, we have Michael Gonzalez. Center, Cole Schneider. Right guard, Joey Fisher. Right tackle, Samuel Jackson. So super excited to see Cole Schneider down at center. Former UCF alumni, I've made that very clear on this podcast. Right guard, Joey Fisher, super excited to see him. His resume was very impressive as well. Right tackle, Sam Jackson, again, UCF representing this offensive line very well. Then, of course, Jason Ivey and Michael Gonzalez should do just fine as well. Backing them up, we have Zuri Henry at left tackle, Mose Vavau backing up left guard and center. And then we have Mike Edwards backing up that right guard, and then Bryce Benhart backing up that right tackle position. Bryce Benhart has a pretty impressive resume as well, so not really worried at all about him backing up that tackle position. Tackle actually looks like a really solid position. I was worried about it for a moment there. Just to be upfront, I don't know as much about Jason Ivey and Michael Gonzalez. So that, I guess, is a bit of a question, but based on, from what I can remember covering them, neither of them seemed like they were super fresh. They both had a decent amount of resumes, but just personally, I'm not as familiar with them. So I'll say that. I'm not saying they're going to be bad at all. They could be good. I'm actually really confident in this offensive line. I think we have one of the best offensive lines in the league, if not the best offensive line in the league. So super happy with what Coach Beck was able to do with these guys on the line. And I think that is critical to maintaining this offensive success, especially with the questions that I have, at least personally, about the quarterback position going into this game. So super excited to see that offensive line work and the tight ends work alongside them. Wide receivers are stacked. Running backs are really good. The only question I have about this entire Orlando Storm offense is what is going on at quarterback. We all assumed DTR was going to be the starter. Jack Plummer is now the starter. Does that mean that DTR just really disappointed, or does that mean that Jack Plummer really, really impressed? We're going to have to wait and find out on Sunday night. It makes me nervous. I'm not doubting Jack Plummer. I'm not saying he can't do it, but it makes me really nervous. But we'll have to see. That's the story for your Orlando Storm offense. Stacked at every single position, but quarterback is a little worrying, and that can make all the difference. But moving right along to the Columbus Aviators offensive line, we have Ryan Nelson at the left tackle, no one backing him up. Cole Cabral at the left guard, no one backing him up. And then center, we have Matt Farniak and Chris Glaser. But Matt Farniak starting at center, Chuck Filaga starting at right guard, and Aaron Montiano at right tackle. Then Bless Harris backing up right tackle, and Wisdom Karshi backing up right guard. So I think I had a note on Ryan Nelson was an all UFL offensive tackle. in 2025. So look out for Ryan Nelson at that tackle position over on left tackle, which is a critical position for the offense, one of the most important positions. And then Aaron Monteiro apparently is supposed to be a really solid offensive lineman as well at that right tackle. So Columbus should have the tackle position secured, which is usually the two most important positions on that offensive line. Again, sorry guys, not saying they're good or bad, but not much familiarity with Cole Cabral, Matt Farniok, or Chuck Falega. So let's go ahead and move on to the defense. For the Orlando Storm, we have Feldarius Payne and Isaiah Buggs starting as your top two defensive tackles there. For me, not much surprise there. They're both extremely, extremely solid. They both popped up off the screen when I was looking at their resumes. Super impressive resumes. Super excited to see both of those guys. Our defensive tackle position is pretty solid, guys. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. But Willie Arbery, also another really solid guy. So to have him as a third is really good. And then we have Isaiah Mack and again Fabian Lovett. Really stacked at defensive tackle, guys. Really, really, really stacked at defensive tackle. But going on to defensive end, we have Chris Garrett and Jasheen Davis on the edge spots there, and then Kashawn Banks and Chris Collins backing them up, making up that edge room. Then we'll go ahead and go with the Columbus Aviators defensive line. We'll start with their defensive tackles as well. We got Walter Palmore and Patrick Jenkins filling up that middle. And then we have Jerron Cage and Kayvon Patton backing them up. Moving on to the defensive end, we have Kenny Willekes. Sorry if I mispronounced that, and Ron Stone Jr. on both sides, and then Quashawn Fuller and Adam Plant Jr. backing those guys up. So the only notes I have for the Columbus Aviators defensive lines is Patrick Jenkins is a standout player, so that is a guy to watch for that unit there. Moving right along to linebacker, we have Andrew Parker Jr. as the will starting there, and then backing him up is Deshaun White. At the mic, we have Tavante Beckett, who is actually going to be inactive for this game. Really, really disappointed to see that. I was super excited to see this guy play. He is going to be a standout player for the Orlando Storm all season long, assuming he can get healthy. But backing him up, we have someone really solid that can replace him, and that is Darian Butler. So again, I think it's hard to replace Tavante Beckett. I'm pretty sure he was all UFL last year, maybe the last 2 years, and he led the league in tackles last year. Super hard to replace that, but I think Darian Butler will be a fine replacement over the middle. And then, backing up Andrew Parker was Deshaun White. So that is going to be your entire linebacking core. Only 3 guys active today because Tavante Beckett was out. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone else being inactive on that linebacker core because that is already a pretty small room, but should be fine. Most teams nowadays don't really keep more than 2 on the field at once anyways, so should be perfectly fine there. Let's go ahead and go over to the Columbus Aviators linebacking core, where we have Noah Dawkins, Tony Fields, and Fred Tompkins. So it looks like they do have 3 starting linebackers. I don't know if that's the formation they're going to run, if they're going to run a 4-3 instead of like a 4-2-3, or I get confused with it, but if they're gonna run 3 linebackers on the field instead of 2, and then like another corner or another safety, but regardless, we have Noah Dawkins, Tony Fields II, and Fred Tompkins as their starting 3 linebackers, and then Jalen Walker, Xavier Benson, and Story Jackson backing those 3 guys up. So the notes I have for their linebacking core, we got Story Jackson, a key linebacker with former NFL experience, so look out for him, and also look out for Tony Fields II. Has a lot of experience and previously played with the Cleveland Browns. So Tony Fields II and Story Jackson, even though Story Jackson is technically a backup, those were the 2 guys I had. I just have some notes here with stars next to them to call them out when I got to the position group. So those are the 2 guys I had to look out for there in the linebacking core. But let's go ahead and get to the defensive secondary. We'll start at cornerback. On the left side of the field, they have left corner listed here. We have starting Micah Abraham, really excited to see him play again. I think the dude belongs in the NFL. So super excited to see Micah Abraham lock up that left side of the field. And behind him, we have someone who is also extremely solid as well. Mark Gilbert was really impressed with his resume. He just kept dealing with injuries. This guy would probably be in the league if it wasn't just for injury after injury after injury. So hopefully he can stay healthy this year and prove that he belongs in the NFL as well. But on the right corner spot, we have Allen George and Lamar Jackson. No disrespect to Allen George, but I am a bit surprised to see Lamar Jackson behind him on the depth chart. Regardless, that must mean that Allen George really impressed in camp. So super excited to see what he can bring to the table as well. For the Columbus Aviators, we have, they don't have it specified left or right, so we're just going to go with corner. Well, we have DJ Miller and T Jones. They didn't even put his full name. I don't know if his name is T, but they put T Jones for him there at that corner spot. So we have DJ Miller and T Jones starting at corner for the Columbus Aviators. And then behind them, we have O'Donnell Fortune and Nehemiah Shelton. So those are their four corners. And then we can go ahead and move to safety. Going back to the Orlando Storm, we have Nate Metters filling in for that full safety spot. Keep an eye on him. He is a standout guy for sure. Really excited to see him playing at that free safety position. And then we have Michelle Powell backing him up at free safety. Jalen Mahoney starting at strong safety with Josh Minkins backing him up there. Over to your Columbus Aviators, we have Akeem Dent at free safety and Kendrick Whitehead Jr. backing him up with Henry Black at strong safety and Michael Lawson backing him up. So the only player I had a star next to for the safety position, funny enough, he is also a backup, is Smoke Monday. What? He's not on the roster either. What the hell? Nope, he's not on the roster. So the only player I had a star next to for the Columbus Aviators safety position was Kendrick Whitehead Jr. I actually had him listed as a cornerback, but he is a backup again. So he was a 2025 All-UFL cornerback and Special Teams Player of the Year. Unless I got that wrong, but that Kendrick Whitehead Jr., yeah, that's what I have in his notes. So he was All-UFL at cornerback, but now he is playing backup safety and Special Teams Player of the Year. So I guess keep an eye out for him, see if he gets onto the field and gets some playing time. That is who I have as a standout player for the Columbus Aviators defense. And if I'm not mistaken, that should round out both teams' offenses and defense. I guess let's just really quickly go ahead and get into the special teams unit. For long snapper, we have Alex Matheson for the Orlando Storm and Peyton Bunch for the Columbus Aviators. Punter, we have Jack Browning for the Orlando Storm and Brad Robbins for the Aviators. At kicker, we'll have Michael Lance for your Orlando Storm and Ryan Coe for the Columbus Aviators. At kick returner, we will have KJ Hamler. They will have Michael Lawson. Number 41 returning kicks is really weird, actually. Maybe, I guess he's a defensive back, right? Yeah, safety. So then it looks like a linebacker number to me. But for punt returner, we have Chris Rowland, and they will have number 0, Devin Ross. So for the Orlando Storm, we do have backup kick returner and punt returners, and that will just be the inverse. So Chris Rowland for backup kick returner, and KJ Hamler for backup punt returner. And at holder, we have the punter, Jack Browning, and the holder for the Columbus Aviators will be number 16, Brad Robbins. So just to really quickly get into some odds here, the Orlando Storm are coming in as 1.5 point favorites over the Columbus Aviators. So a really super tight spread. They're expecting a close game. And from what I know, I would say I'm inclined to agree. I do really like the Orlando Storm's overall roster. I think many of the positions are just absolutely loaded with talent. For example, the offensive line, wide receiver, and defensive tackle, I think are really strong positions for the Orlando Storm. But again, it's all going to boil down, and running back too, they're just really solid there. But it's all going to boil down to quarterback for the Orlando Storm. They're rolling with Jack Plummer as the starter, much to a lot of people's surprise, and that's going to be the story of this game and maybe the Orlando Storm's entire season is, will Jack Plummer work out? And if he doesn't work out, what can DTR give you in replacement of him? So if Jack Plummer comes out there and he looks great, this is going to be a very good season for the Orlando Storm. There's almost no doubt about it. The rest of the team is good enough that if they have good or just average quarterback play, I think they can make this season work. But if he comes out and he looks bad and DTR goes in, that's going to be a huge question. I think we're all really excited to see what DTR has. And in theory, that is a good situation to be in with DTR as your backup coming in, because seemingly that would be an extremely good quarterback coming in to replace Jack Plummer. But why was he not starting in the first place? That's the concern. So we'll have to figure that out on Sunday. If Jack Plummer comes in and looks great, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if he comes in and he looks bad and then DTR has to replace him, what are we getting from DTR? And what are we going to see that would kind of explain to us why he wasn't starting in the first place? That's the story for the Orlando Storm's first game, and most likely, like I said, their whole season if they don't figure this out in game one. So hopefully we do, and hopefully it goes well. But with that being said, that's going to be your first game preview. Again, my first time ever doing this, so apologize if it came out a little unorganized. Of course, as the season goes along, I'll start learning more about these teams, but this is our first time ever seeing the Orlando Storm and my first time ever sitting down and actually looking at the Aviators' entire depth chart. So not a lot of in-depth knowledge on the Aviator side, more of it on the Orlando Storm side. But with that being said, I cannot wait to see you guys this Sunday. Well, let's go ahead and give our game predictions. Since Orlando Storm is coming in at a 1.5 point spread, not a huge spread, I am going to take them to cover that spread. That being said, but not by much. I do think this is going to be a close game. I think the spread will be proven correct in that manner. And I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, despite all the talent we have on offense. I think much like the first week of the UFL around the league, all the other teams, the offenses are going to kind of struggle and the defenses are going to feast on that. It's kind of similar to what happens in the NFL when they're doing their spring training and they're in training camp. Usually the defense always gets the first footing before the offense does. So I think this week is kind of going to be that for the Orlando Storm, especially with them figuring out quarterback. So I'm going to project a lower scoring game, maybe higher scoring than the other ones we've had. And I'm going to say 17-14 for the Orlando Storm. A 17-14 win against the Columbus Aviators in Orlando at Inter Stadium, starting off 1-0. Not a super dominating victory, but a slight win, a low scoring, very efficient defensive performance for the Orlando Storm against the Aviators in their week one game. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you all have winning? And I can't wait to see you at Inter Stadium at 8 p.m. If you get there early, you'll see me. If you want to meet up at any point, just come, message me on Instagram. Come find me. I'll be happy to say hi to you. But with that being said, thank you for weathering the storm. Go Storm, Sir John.